Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bible Hour, day 111 of 60. And we've reached the book of Daniel. And what is that white light streak? Very suspicious. Very suspicious. Huh? Huh? It's still there. It's like a white streak right there coming down from the front. That's suspicious. Yeah, still there. Chris Henry in the house. I'm turning it off. I don't want that white streak for Daniel. Okay. Dark now, isn't it? Very dark. Probably should have done this before going live on air. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bible Hour. It is a glorious evening. And we are with Daniel. We've made it to the book of Daniel. Park End Church Avenue in the house. Day 111. Oh, it appears to have a new set. Did you see Rembrandt's feast picture today? Special picture for the live stream. Ricky Bad Boy on the keyboard. Chris Henry in the house. So Roberts, I can't get chat down the side and Owen is on a wide screen. What can I do? Everything Owen says is duplicated. Sounds like you need to close it down and reopen it, Sue. You've got about 6 minutes. Alright, let's load up the Bible. We will stand as children of the promise. We will fix our eyes on him, our great reward. Do 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 do. Welcome on in, Nick Hawkins. The Knickerbocker Glory. What an hour this is going to be. What an hour. I even saw the Reverend Dr. Andy Christofides from St. Mallan's Church earlier today. He said he's tuning in for Daniel. It's not one to miss, young and old, in the house. We might finish the Old Testament today. I'm just saying. I have got rid of the duplication, but I still have Owen on a widescreen and chat below. Maybe like at the bottom right of me, is there like a little square? Maybe click the square, might take me off full screen or something. I don't know. And Neil's away. He's the man. Oh yeah, now then, let me make a note of something. Is there anything I can do to get chat down a small on the side? Let's check this out. Let's check it out. I'll check this out for you, Sue Roberts. I will check this out just for you. Let's go to Park End. Park End Church. They are live. Yeah, I think you're in cinema mode. There's like 3 squares down the bottom. Try the middle one, Sue Roberts. Petit Bois, looking forward to Danielle. Paula Barrett, happy Friday all. I did actually see Paula Barrett earlier on. With my very own eyes. Ricky B, what a man. Wow, it's 9 o'clock already. Ladies and gentlemen, do not forget that it's car park communion tomorrow at 11 a.m. until 12:30. I will be at the church filming from 9 a.m. Those who are coming to help, please be there for 10 a.m. Those who are shadowing those who are coming to help, to be of future help, please come at 10 a.m. and then depart thenceforth, maybe after communion, so we don't clog up the area. In 1 minute, ladies and gentlemen, we will re-begin Ezekiel, just in case we miss something. Every day to get here, I click Help in my church folder. And Ricky B's link takes me to Bible Hour. I don't know what that means, but that sounds good. North Star, good morning. All right, let us get our minds and hearts in gear for the book of Daniel. Looks like clouds in your eyes. Woo. Okay, so I have a few things to say that you already know. So Nebuchadnezzar, he is the boss of the Babylonians. Babylonian or Iraqi Empire. Saddam Hussein modelled himself on Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel means God is judge. So there's a key for the book. We're Elton, shut up. We are now inside of the exile, seeing behind the scenes Jesus work. I mean, Ezekiel's at it. They're all at it. But now we're going to see Daniel. So the prophets have been warned. Tell the people, if they don't follow my Lord Jehovah, it all goes downhill. Jehoiakim, it all goes Pete Tong in 2 Kings. Neb invades the land. Church never loses when the Lord is with them. Church always loses when the Lord isn't with them. What? North Star, if anyone looking for resources for Muslims seeking Jesus' testimony of Nabil Qureshi worth recommended, found a quick YouTube search. Yeah, I've got that. He's got a book, isn't he? Something like Searching for Allah, Finding Jesus or something. So Neb comes and the temple is in trouble. It's like hell on earth. God is gone. The flames are taking over. And more raiders come to destroy Judah. So ladies and gentlemen, we are now coming to Nebuchadnezzar going up to Jerusalem to besiege it. Everyone surrenders. The temple gets raided. The palace gets raided. Solomon's riches gone, stolen. Your history, if you were there, stolen away in a moment. The White House, Buckingham Palace, ransacked, live on YouTube and replaced. 10,000 people taken away, and an army on top of that. Daniel is one of them. And out of 10,000 people, ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to focus on 4. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. During the 3rd year of King Jehoiakim's reign in Judah, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to Jerusalem and besieged it. The Lord gave him victory over King Jehoiakim of Judah and permitted him to take some of the sacred objects from the temple of God. So Nebuchadnezzar took them back to the land of Babylonia and placed them in the treasure house of his God. All right, let's go and focus on a few of them. Then the king ordered Ashpenaz, his chief of staff, to bring to the palace some of the young men of Judah's royal family and the other noble families who had been brought to Babylon as captains. Select only strong, healthy, and good-looking young men, he said. Make sure they are well versed in every branch of learning, are gifted with knowledge and good judgment, and are suited to serve in the royal palace. Train these young men in the language and literature of Babylon. The king assigned them a daily ration of food and wine from his own kitchens. They were to be trained for 3 years, and then they would enter the royal service. Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were 4 of the young men chosen, all from the tribe of Judah. The chief of staff remained with them. Sorry, that was wrong. The chief of staff renamed them with these Babylonian names: Daniel, Belshazzar, Hananiah to Shadrach. Mishael was called Meshach, and Azariah was called Abednego. Now, not only now have they lost their culture, their church, not only do they have to forget their old life and everything they've known. The corner shop's gone, the kiosk is gone, the church car park is gone, the ordering curry on a Friday night, gone. But now they get humiliated, and their parents do too, because Hananiah meant grace from the Lord. So he's raised up in a godly home. Mishael is the one who was asked for. His parents wanted him, and when he came, they were so thankful in worship to the Lord. Azariah, he hears the Lord. That's what that means. So there's big aspirations here. Change to Belshazzar, which means secretly hoarded treasure, which is what the Babylonians loved to do, hoard you as treasure. Shadrach, which means at Aku's command, and Aku was one of the Babylonian gods. Meshach, which belongs to Nebuchadnezzar. Abednego, servant of Nego, the god. And Daniel tends to keep his own name, and that's what you get for, you're doing your own publicity and stuff when you write your own book, don't you? Author's rights. Hey, MacDonald in the house. Hey, Mac, I thought you got his next Sunday. He's going next Sunday. Hey, tune in to Sunday service to see a fair bit of Mac, the Big Mac. But how do they get on, these four? But Daniel was determined not to defile himself by eating the food and wine given to them by the king. He asked the chief of staff for permission not to eat these unacceptable foods. Ladies and gentlemen, they are resolute. Verse 9. Now God had given the chief of staff both respect and affection for Daniel. God is not done with his church. But he responded, I am afraid of my lord the king, who has ordered that you eat this food and wine. If you become pale and thin compared to other youths your age, I'm afraid the king will have me beheaded. Is that a dig at the vegetarian diet? Certainly sounded like one. I hope it was not. Daniel spoke with the attendant who had been appointed by the chief of staff to look after Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Please test us for 10 days on a diet of vegetables and water, Daniel said. He's up to something. At the end of the 10 days, see how we look compared to the other young men who are eating the king's food. Then make your decision in light of what you see. The attendant agreed to Daniel's suggestion and tested them for 10 days. The message of the book of Daniel is, eat vegetables. We can now move on to the next book. At the end of the 10 days, Daniel and his 3 friends looked healthier and better nourished than the young men who had been eating the food assigned to the king. So after that, the attendant fed them only vegetables instead of the food and wine provided for the others. Ladies and gentlemen, it worked. It worked. God gave these 4 young men an unusual aptitude for understanding every aspect of literature and wisdom. And God gave Daniel a special ability to interpret the meanings of visions and dreams. I remember that passage being a help growing up, figuring out what is worldliness. Should it mean we never read non-Christian books or never watch non-Christian produced programs or non-Christian music? Actually, in Romans 12, worldliness is a spirit, it's an attitude first and foremost. Yes, it works itself out into what we can watch and don't watch. But first and foremost, the worldliness that the Bible condemns is an anti-Jesus spirit. So, rather than do not read this, do not touch that, do not eat that, do not go there. And it's interesting that Daniel immersed himself in the literature of Babylon. he became well versed in it, and it wasn't inherently evil. It's just interesting. Be in the world, but not of the world. The of the world there is an anti-Jesus attitude. Some people can read, I remember A.W. Tozer, the preacher, would read Shakespeare on his knees in worship because he was so struck by the literary prowess and genius of Shakespeare. So there's nothing anti-godly about reading that secular work. Now, by the way, some stories later in the book track back to this training period. The first few chapters, Daniel, is like a general overview. And then the last 6 chapters is going to sort of interweave here. So we're just on an overview at the moment. We're following him from about 15 years old to old age in the first 6 chapters. When the training period ordered by the king was completed, the chief of staff brought all the young men to King Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them, and no one impressed him as much as Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the royal service. Whenever the king consulted them in any matter requiring wisdom and balanced judgment, he found them 10 times more capable than any of the magicians and enchanters in his entire kingdom. Daniel remained in the royal service until the first year of the reign of King Cyrus. That's Persia, by the way, so he sees through the Babylonians and he makes it to the Persians. Welcome on into the Bible Hour, ladies and gentlemen. We are in the book of Daniel, and we have made it to chapter 2. One night, during the 2nd year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar has such disturbing dreams that he couldn't sleep. He called his magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers, and he demanded that they tell him what he had dreamed. So these sort of magicians and enchanters, they've been around. Remember, they were in Egypt trying to compete with Moses, and they lost that one. They're powerful people, these, but not this time. As they stood before the king, he said, "I have had a dream that deeply troubles me, and I must know what it means." Then the astrologers answered the king in Aramaic, "Long live the king! Tell us the dream, and we will tell you what it means." But the king said to his astrologers, "I am serious about this. If you don't tell me what my dream was and what it means, you will be torn limb from limb, and your houses will be turned into heaps of trouble. But if you tell me what I dreamed and what the dream means, I will give you many wonderful things, gifts and honors. Just tell me the dream and what it means." I just want to stop there, because in church life, dreams, we do have to just slightly consider this, because people will raise the subject of dreams and that. So just briefly, in the Bible, some dreams are rejected as evil, wicked and false, not to be trusted, not to be acted out. But also in the Bible and in church history and beyond, dreams are used by God and are even given by God. And the fact that Nebuchadnezzar wants to know if this dream is true, and what it means is true, that means that there are some that can be false, but some dreams are given by God and should be acted on. So don't write the dream world off. Don't be too into it, so every dream you have is a message, because that's not biblical either. But God is in this one. Pilate's wife had that dream, remember? The Magi were warned in a dream. Joseph was into dreams and sorting out dreams, and it happens, people. Uh-oh. I skipped to Daniel. I pressed the wrong button and I went to Daniel chapter 12. I'm going back as fast as I can. Okay, I'm back. I'm back, folks. I'm back. Sue Roberts, I have very vivid dreams and sometimes they come true. Hey, I don't write these things off. Just tell me what the dream means. They said again, please, your majesty. Tell us the dream and we will tell you what it means. The king replied, I know what you are doing. You're stalling for time because you know I am serious when I say, if you don't tell me the dream, you are doomed. So you have conspired to tell me lies, hoping I will change my mind. But tell me the dream and then I'll know that you can tell me what it means. It's crackers that in all the prophets we've been reading and the threats of that coming power and beast of Babylon, now we're in the dude's bedroom of the leader of that whole thing and God is just in his dreams. It's incredible. The astrologers replied to the king, no one on earth can tell the king his dream, and no king, however great and powerful, has ever asked such a thing of any magician, enchanter, or astrologer. The king's demand is impossible. No one except the gods can tell you your dream, and they do not live here among people. The king was furious when he heard this, and he ordered that all the wise men of Babylon be executed. And because of the king's decree, men were sent to find and kill Daniel and his friends. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, came to kill them, Daniel handled the situation with wisdom and discretion. He asked Arioch, why has the king issued such a harsh decree? So Arioch told him all that had happened. Daniel went at once to see the king and requested more time to tell the king what the dream meant. This is the best book in the Bible. This is the best book in the Bible, hands down. I'm going to preach on this. We got to do a series on Daniel, folks. I'm talking... Ooh, MacDonald, Joseph's brothers even called him the Dreamer. Yeah, that's right. Nice one. I forgot that bit. We got to preach on this. We're talking, we'll get the kids to do a massive display of Babylon behind us on the stage. We'll get them up every week to read the chapter that I'm about to preach on. They can even dress up as characters. It's going to look amazing. That stage we can turn into a set of Babylon. And then the chapters when the lions are in it, we can get the lions and then set fire to the stage for the fiery bits. Honestly. Diane, am I right? So Arioch told him all that had happened. Daniel went at once to see the king and requested more time to tell the king what the dream meant. Then Daniel went home and told his friends Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah what had happened. He urged them to ask the God of heaven to show them his mercy by telling them the secret, so they would not be executed along with the other wise men of Babylon. Pray about it, guys. That night the secret was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven. He said, praise the name of God forever and ever, for he has all wisdom and power. He controls the course of world events. He removes kings and sets up other kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the scholars. He reveals deep and mysterious things and knows what lies hidden in the darkness, though he is surrounded by light. I thank and praise you, God of my ancestors, for you have given me wisdom and strength. You have told me what we asked of you and revealed to us what the king demanded. Who is the God of his ancestors? It is the one who Jacob wrestled with, who led them out of Egypt, the one Jehovah. Hey, Diane's on board, that's it, it's done. Daniel interprets the dream. Then Daniel went to see Arioch, whom the king had ordered to execute the wise men of Babylon. Daniel said to him, "Don't kill the wise men, take me to the king, and I will tell him the meaning of his dream." Mind you, I'm serious about sets. I love the thought of turning the state, getting the children involved in church life by getting their artwork, building sets, bringing the stage to life so the preaching is there in front of it. I love that. It's a great way for the kids to enjoy church life. They come and listen and see and read, and that's the dream, man. That is the dream. Arioch quickly took Daniel to the king and said, "I have found one of the captives from Judah who will tell the king the meaning of his dream." The king then said to Daniel, also known as Belteshazzar, "Is this true? Can you tell me what my dream was and what it means?" Daniel replied, "There are no wise men, enchanters, magicians, or fortune tellers who can reveal the king's secret, but there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the future. Now I will tell you your dream and the visions you saw as you lay on your bed. While your majesty was sleeping, you dreamed about coming events. He who reveals secrets has shown you what is going to happen." Kath Davis. Ooh, hold on. Park End, if you're going to set fire to the church, please get my guitars out first. Kath Davis, lots of costumes available. Yes. Chris Aaron, very selective interpretation of what DR said. Yeah. Hi, CH, agreed. We're on it, man. We're on it. And it is not because I am wiser than anyone else that I know the secret of your dream, but because God wants you to understand what was in your heart. In your vision, your majesty, you saw standing before you a huge, shining statue of a man. It was a frightening sight. The head of the statue was made of fine gold. Its chest and arms were silver. Its belly and thighs were bronze. Its legs were iron, and its feet were a combination of iron and baked clay. As you watched, a rock was cut from a mountain, but not by human hands. It struck the feet of iron and clay, smashing them to bits. The whole statue was crushed into small pieces of iron, clay, bronze, silver, and gold. Then the wind blew them away without a trace, like chaff on a threshing floor. But the rock that knocked the statue down became a great mountain that covered the whole earth. That was the dream. Now we will tell the king what it means. Your Majesty, you are the greatest of kings. The God of heaven has given you sovereignty, power, strength, and honor. That's a big one. Paul says the same thing to us today, people. The governments over earth are the Lord's anointed, sort of, and we're to pray for them. Do pray. Hal George in the house. Sorry I'm late. Love Daniel. Hope I missed 5 chapters. Hal George in the house. Welcome on in, my brother. Everything's gone. Everything they ever knew. Neb's come and smashed it all, taking it away. I went into the name meanings of his pals. That's what he missed. Belshazzar, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and how their whole identity was stripped and what those names mean is quite freaky. That's about it, really, my man. He has made you the ruler over all the inhabited world and has put even the wild animals and birds under your control. You are the head of gold. But after your kingdom comes to an end, another kingdom inferior to yours will rise to take your place. After that kingdom has fallen, yet a third kingdom, represented by bronze, will rise to rule the world. Following that kingdom, there will be a fourth one, as strong as iron. That kingdom will smash and crush all previous empires, just as iron smashes and crushes everything it strikes. The feet and toes you saw were a combination of iron and baked clay, showing that this kingdom will be divided, like iron mixed with clay. It will have some of the strength of iron, but while some parts of it will be as strong as iron, other parts will be as weak as clay. This mixture of iron and clay also shows that these kingdoms will try to strengthen themselves by forming alliances with each other through intermarriage, but they will not hold together, just as iron and clay do not mix. During the reigns of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed or conquered. It will crush all these kingdoms into nothingness, and it will stand forever. This is the meaning of the rock cut from the mountain, though not by human hands, that crushed to pieces the statue of iron, bronze, clay, silver, and gold. The great God was showing the king what will happen in the future. The dream is true, and its meaning is certain. FYI, probably, and I'm saying this after probably 10,000 hours over my life of research, probably the silver chest was the Persian Empire, the bronze stomach was probably the Greek Empire, the iron clay legs were probably the Romans. Possibly, though, all the kingdoms of the world who wage war against Jesus and church. Because number 4 in the Bible often represents the world. And the Lord's kingdom is cut from a mountain without human hands. You in that kingdom, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to enjoy that kingdom in many ways, join us tomorrow at 11 a.m. in the car park. More Bible readings, prayers, more liturgy. We've got a different type from last week. Then King Nebuchadnezzar ladies and gentlemen, here's the halfway mark. Oh no, I'll do this bit. Then King Nebuchadnezzar threw himself down before Daniel and worshipped him. And he commanded his people to offer sacrifices and burn sweet incense before him. The king said to Daniel, "Truly, your God is the greatest of gods, the Lord over kings, a revealer of mysteries, for you have been able to reveal this secret." Then the king appointed Daniel. I think he becomes a Christian, by the way. I think those of us who are trusting in Jesus are going to see Neb in glory. And in my head, he's a fat man. Although he won't have his body back until the new heavens and the new earth. To find that bit out. Then although in my head, Jesus is quite fat as well. Like a northerner with a thick northern accent. Probably a bit rotund, because Isaiah said, he wasn't that much. He didn't have much going on physically. Anyway, I digress. Then the king appointed Daniel to a high position and gave him many valuable gifts. He made Daniel ruler over the whole province of Babylon, as well as chief over all his wise men. At Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to be in charge of all the affairs of the province of Babylon, while Daniel remained in the king's court. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody messes with the Lord's church. It is day 111, take 111 seconds. Go and play Elton John's version of Daniel for 111 seconds. Grab a pina colada and come back here for chapter 3. Rachel Freeman, please tell me you are not wearing a shell suit, Mr. Batstone. No. I'm wearing the 1999 Tottenham Hotspur goalkeeper kit. Jesus, fat never. I'm just saying what Isaiah said. A slightly rotund northerner, not much to look at. Howell George text, hey Ricky B, listen to this. And Sue Roberts, Howell George, who's preaching tomorrow. Either we have reading Ezra 1, then I read Ezra 3 at the start of the sermon, or we change the reading to Ezra 1, 1 to 5 and 3 verses 1 to 13. Howell George, the reading. Sue Roberts has done it. It's up in the box. So you just read Ezra 3 at the start of the sermon. Don't worry about that, man. And not even at the start of the sermon. What we'll do is we'll play Sue Roberts's and then you can do the reading and we'll splice it in, man. That's what we do. That's how we roll. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the book of Daniel, chapter 3. Here we go. King Nebuchadnezzar made a gold statue 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide and set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Probably of himself. Then he sent messengers to the high officers, officials, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the provincial officials to come to the dedication of the statue he had set up. So all these officials came and stood before the statue King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then a herald shouted out, "People of all races and nations and languages, listen to the king's command. When you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and other musical instruments, bow to the ground to worship King Nebuchadnezzar's gold statue. Anyone who refuses to obey will immediately be thrown into a blazing fire." So at the sound of the musical instruments, all the people, whatever their race or nation or language, bowed to the ground and worshipped the gold statue that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. I still think he's a Christian, I'm just putting that out there. He's just having a blip, a hefty blip. But some of the astrologers went to the king and informed on the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "Long live the king! You issued a decree requiring all people to bow down and worship the gold statue when they hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipes, and other musical instruments." That decree also states that those who refuse to obey must be thrown into a blazing furnace. Has someone got Chaldeans there for instead of astrologers in verse 8? Because Chaldeans are are astrologers, so don't worry about that. The decree also states that those who refuse to obey must be thrown into a burning furnace. But there are some Jews, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whom you have put in charge of the province of Babylon. They pay no attention to you, your majesty. They refuse to serve your gods and do not worship the gold statue you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar flew into a rage and ordered that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought before him. When they were brought in, Nebuchadnezzar said to him, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you refuse to serve my gods or to worship the gold statue I have set up?" All right, okay, it's questionable if he's a Christian, but he's definitely by the end. "I will give you one more chance to bow down and worship the statue I have made when you hear the sound of musical instruments. If you refuse, you will be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace. And then what God will be able to rescue you from my power?" KJV says Chaldeans. Yeah, I thought so. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up." Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is such a testimony to us. I don't know, is it hard to stand for Jesus in the workplace? Check these boys out. Because your boss isn't going to throw you in the flames. Is it hard to witness about Jesus to your neighbour? Check these boys out. In the light of being burned alive, they will not share the glory of Jesus with another God. And did you know, in the time it's taken me in these 39 minutes to read these chapters of Daniel, several brothers and sisters in Jesus on planet Earth right now have been killed for their faith. But I'll tell you this, Park End Church admin, please copy and paste 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verses 9 and 10, please. That's 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verses 9 and 10. It is possible for the church member to experience unrivaled joy in suffering with Jesus. It's powerful stuff that we're reading. These were just teenagers, although maybe a bit older now. Nebuchadnezzar was so furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that his face became distorted with rage. He commanded that the furnace be heated 7 times hotter than usual. Then he ordered some of the strongest men of his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing furnace. So they tied them up and threw them into the furnace, fully dressed in their pants, turbans, robes, and other garments. Is it NLT American? Is it? Sounds like it is. Pants. And because the king and his anger had demanded such a hot fire in the furnace, the flames killed the soldiers as they threw the 3 men in. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, securely tied, fell into the roaring flames. But suddenly Nebuchadnezzar jumped in amazement and exclaimed to his advisors, "Didn't we tie up 3 men and throw them into the furnace?" "Yes, your majesty, we certainly did," they replied. "Look," Nebuchadnezzar shouted, "I see 4 men, unbound, walking around in the fire unharmed. And the 4th looks like a god." (2 Corinthians 11). And when I was with you and didn't have enough to live on, I did not become a financial burden to anyone, for the brothers who came from Macedonia brought me all that I needed. I have never been a burden to you, and I never will be. As surely as the truth of Christ is in me, no one in all of Greece will ever stop me from boasting about this. Ricky B. Yep, I've given you the wrong verse. That's what's happened there. That's what's happened, Ricky B. I've given you the wrong verse. That's what happens when I get involved with the New Testament. Trousers in my English version, Sue Roberts. MacDonald, I admire their faith. Even if our God does not save us, we will not bow down to it. That should be the slogan on something. That is amazing. You're right. Then Nebuchadnezzar came as close as he could to the door of the flaming furnace and shouted, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here. See, he is a Christian. He's just one of those nutter ones who just forget and then remember who God is. Yeah, I wondered how it fitted in as well. I'm sure we could make it fit. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stepped out of the fire. Then the high officers, officials, governors, and advisors crowded around them and saw that the fire had not touched them. Not a hair on their head was singed, and their clothing was not scorched, and they didn't even smell of smoke. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, Praise to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He sent his angel to rescue his servants who trusted in him. They defied the king's command and were willing to die rather than to serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore I make this decree. If any people, whatever their race or nation or language, speak a word against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they will be torn from limb to limb. It doesn't do things by halves. And their houses will be turned into heaps of rubble. There is no other God who can rescue like this. Then what's amazing is on Sunday we'll be saying that live. We say that every day. It's incredible that Nebuchadnezzar was saying that too. And here we are, still saying it. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to even higher positions in the province of Babylon. Ladies and gentlemen, can you believe it? We are in the fourth. Take 30 seconds. Looks like Daniel. Must be the clouds in your eyes. Whoa. Right. Talk about a stressful boss, I know. Now, where is the verse that I thought was 2 Corinthians? This is what I want. Okay. You would check this out. This is what I meant. 2 Corinthians 12, not 11, 9 and 10. Church members in this room, stick with Jesus in your difficult coming week. Don't bow the knee to another God. It ain't worship. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. And every believer martyred in the time that we've read this and thrown to lions or flames, Christ's power is going out through them to us, to the world, to the people that threw them or murdered them. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties, for when I am weak, then I am strong. Daniel chapter 4 is a fascinating one because we are now reading a letter from King Neb. And he's all freaked out because the dreams were a warning to him. Here we go. King Nebuchadnezzar sent this message to people of every race and nation and language throughout the world. Peace and prosperity to you. I want you all to know about the miraculous signs and wonders the Most High God has performed for me. How great are his signs, how powerful his wonders. His kingdom will last forever, his rule through all generations. He's a Christian, isn't it? I, Nebuchadnezzar, was living in my palace in comfort and prosperity, but one night I had a dream that frightened me. I saw visions that terrified me as I lay in bed. So I issued an order calling all the wise men of Babylon so they could tell me what my dream meant. When all the magicians, enchanters, astrologers, and fortune tellers came in, I told them the dream, but they could not tell me what it meant. At last, Daniel came in before me, and I told him the dream. He was named Belshazzar after my God, and the spirit of the holy gods is in him. I said to him, Belshazzar, chief of the magicians, I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in you, and that no mystery is too great for you to solve. Now tell me what my dream means. While I was laying in my bed, this is what I dreamed. I saw a large tree in the middle of the earth. The tree grew very tall and strong, reaching high into the heavens for all the world to see. It had fresh green leaves, and it was loaded with fruit for all to eat. Wild animals lived in its shade, and birds nested in its branches. All the world was fed from this tree. Then as I lay there dreaming, I saw a messenger, a holy one, coming down from heaven. The messenger shouted, Cut down the tree and lop off its branches. Shake off its leaves and scatter its fruit. Chase the wild animals from its shade and the birds from its branches. But leave the stump and the roots in the ground, bound with a band of iron and bronze and surrounded by tender grass. Now let him be drenched with the dew of heaven, and let him live with the wild animals among the plants of the field. For 7 periods of time, let him have a mind of a wild animal instead of the mind of a human. For this has been decreed by the messengers. It is commanded by the holy ones, so that everyone may know that the Most High rules over the kingdoms of the world. He gives them to anyone he chooses, even to the lowliest of people. Belshazzar, that was the dream that I, King Nebuchadnezzar, had. Now, tell me what it means, for none of the wise men of my kingdom can do so, but you can tell me because the spirit of the holy gods is in you. Daniel explains the dream. Upon hearing this, Daniel, also known as Belshazzar, was overcome for a time, frightened by the meaning of the dream. Then the king said to him, Belshazzar, don't be alarmed by the dream and what it means. Belshazzar replied, I wish the events foreshadowed in this dream would happen to your enemies, my lord, and not to you. See, they're getting on fine now because they're all Christians, sort of. The tree you saw was growing very tall and strong, reaching high into the heavens for all the world to see. It had fresh green leaves and was loaded with fruit for all to eat. Wild animals lived in its shade and birds nested in its branches. That tree, your majesty, is you. For you have grown strong and great. Your greatness reaches up to heaven and your rule to the ends of the earth. Then you saw a messenger, a holy one, coming down from heaven and saying, cut down the tree and destroy it, but leave the stump and the roots in the ground, bound with a band of iron and bronze and surrounded by tender grass. Let him be drenched with the dew of heaven. Let him live with the animals of the field for 7 periods of time. There's a million ideas of what the 7 periods of time are. Don't worry about it. We're not getting into it now. We'll do it when I preach through it, because it's not the point of this. This is what the dream means, your majesty, and what the Most High has declared will happen to you, my Lord and King. You will be driven from human society, and you will live in the fields with the wild animals. You will eat grass like a cow, and you will be drenched with the dew of heaven. 7 periods of time will pass while you live this way, until you learn that the Most High rules over the kingdoms of the world and gives them to anyone he chooses. But the stump and roots of the tree were left in the ground. This means that you will receive your kingdom back when you have learned that heaven rules. King Nebuchadnezzar, please accept my advice. Stop sinning and do what is right. Break from your wicked past and be merciful to the poor. Perhaps then you will continue to prosper. But all these things did happen to King Nebuchadnezzar. Hey, which one of you sometimes has ignored the promptings of the priest, pastor, bishop, deacon, elder, church member, sermon, daily reading to turn from sin? And we didn't. It happens. Don't write Neb off, because it happens. He does need to seek the face of the one that was in the fire. But all these things did happen to King Neb. 12 months later, he was taking a walk on the flat roof of the royal palace in Babylon. As he looked across the city, he said, "Look at this great city of Babylon. By my own mighty power, I have built this beautiful city as my royal residence to display my majestic splendor." Yeah, all right, he's got a way to go. While these words were still in his mouth, a voice called down from heaven, "O Nebuchadnezzar, this message is for you. You are no longer ruler of this kingdom. You will be driven from human society. You will live in the fields with the wild animals, and you will eat grass like a cow. 7 periods of time will pass while you live this way, until you learn that the Most High rules over the kingdoms of the world and gives them to anyone he chooses." That same hour, the judgment was fulfilled, and Nebuchadnezzar was driven from human society. He ate grass like a cow, and he was drenched in the dew of heaven. He lived this way until his hair was as long as eagle's feathers, and his nails were like birds' claws. If you want some fun, go and look at how modern commentators try and just explain what was going on there. Instead of just saying, yeah, that's what the Lord can do, they're like, he had a psychedelic episode of that condition where you think you're an animal and all that stuff, and it gets really freaky and they all miss the point. Nebuchadnezzar praises God. After this time had passed, I, Nebuchadnezzar, looked up to heaven. My sanity returned, and I praised and worshipped the Most High and honored the one who lives forever. His rule is everlasting. His kingdom is eternal. All the people of the earth are nothing compared to him. He does as he pleases among the angels of heaven and among the people of the earth. No one can stop him or say to him, What do you mean by doing these things? When my sanity returned to me, so did my honour and glory and kingdom. My advisers and nobles sought me out, and I was restored as head of my kingdom, with even greater honour than before. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and glorify and honour the King of heaven. All his acts are just and true, and he is able to humble the proud. There's a thread here. There's the Lord's angel in the fire with his church members. There's this Holy One who's coming down and cutting people down in their dreams so that they realize he is the King of heaven and his kingdom is established. Ladies and gentlemen, we have made it to Daniel chapter 5, which the picture I put on the thumbnail was all about. So that's another botched thing, because we didn't even get to the chapter of Rembrandt's feast. Ladies and gentlemen, the kingdom of Jesus lasts forever. Are you washed? Are you washed? Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb? That's the way. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. If you are free from 11 to 12:30 tomorrow, if you have a little gap, drop on in to Car Park Communion. You can walk in, you can drive in, you can say hello to people. We will see you tomorrow back here at 9 p.m. because things are just hotting up in the book of Daniel.